If you were a commander in the summer of 1943, with 25 kilometers of mines ahead and a line of Tigers roaring behind, would you advance or stop? The answer at Kursk changed the fate of World War II. Today, we're not just telling a battle story, we're decoding how a perfect plan collapsed on itself and how an ordinary defensive line became a tank-shredding grinder. After Stalingrad, Germany's aura of invincibility was gone. Hitler needed a strategic knockout to regain the initiative and convince Axis partners the Wehrmacht still had teeth. The Kursk salient looked ideal. Open ground, little forest, dry summer, perfect for deep armored thrusts, the very style that stunned Western Europe. German thinking, mass elite armor, Tigers, thick armor, 88mm gun, Panthers, high-velocity 75mm, Elephant heavy assault guns. Strike a double envelopment from the north, Model, and south, Manstein, to pinch off the salient and snap the Red Army's line. But 1943 wasn't 1941. The Soviets had learned fast from Moscow and Stalingrad. The first turning point wasn't on the battlefield. It was intelligence. Soviet spy networks picked up early signs. The Germans would hit Kursk in summer 1943. That let Stavka, the Soviet High Command, choose a path very different from 1941. Don't counterattack early. Do build layered defense in depth and drag Germany into a war of attrition. How the Soviets set the board. Millions of mines, anti-tank and anti-personnel, sealing likely avenues of approach. Overlapping anti-tank gun belts, creating interlocking kill boxes, trenches, earthworks, strong points in multiple tiers, villages woven in to break up formations. Mobile reserves, tank and mechanized corps, held deep to counterpunch once the attacker tired. Core decision, let them fire first, then beat them with their own playbook. Hitler twice delayed the start to wait for more Tigers/Panthers and fix rail bottlenecks. Every delay gave the Soviets time to lay more mines, tighten gun density, and rehearse artillery air infantry coordination. The Panther and Elephant were powerful, but suffered early mechanical issues, drank fuel, and were heavy, making them vulnerable to mines, bridges, and bad roads. A strategic engine fell into a logistics trap. Chasing technical perfection killed tempo, while the enemy invested in depth. Even the strongest steel blade loses to a grinder, if you force it into the grinder's lane. In early July, the Soviets hit airfields and rail lines. Then before dawn on July 5th, unleashed a preemptive artillery barrage. Not to finish the fight, but to scramble the German assault formations and ruin the timing. The Germans still attacked, but their tempo was broken. And in an armored campaign, broken tempo equals lost opportunity. On the Ural axis, German tanks crawled, minefields forced engineers forward under fire, while Soviet anti-tank guns waited, zeroed in. Compressed into narrow lanes, the columns were hammered by low-flying IL-2 Sturmovix, hitting weak spots. There were local penetrations, but no deep break through the second and third belts. After days of grinding losses, the momentum died. Model halted. Real-life story number 1. The Nameless Sapper. A former Soviet sapper recalled the night of July 4th to 5th. His squad crawled forward, hand-clearing mines by the light of flares, probing with rods, marking with tiny flags. Each faint click meant a life saved behind us. By sunrise, their zigzag lanes determined where an entire tank regiment could live or die. Sometimes victory hides in barely visible lines in the grass. In the south, some German thrusts punched deeper, past the first belts. The key was Prokhorovka, a rail hub and a launch pad to hook the Soviet flank. On July 12th, both sides threw in massive reserves. T-34/76 versus Tigers/Panthers. The tactics weren't two tanks ramming, like in the movies. The Soviets closed the distance on purpose, using mobility and well-drilled crews to force the fight inside the 88's comfort zone. At close range, T-34s could hit flanks and engine decks. The field became a scrapyard of steel, and crucially, Germany failed to break through. Real-life story number 2, inside a Tiger crew. Günther, a Tiger driver, name changed, remembered, our sweet spot was 1,500 to 2,000 meters. But that morning, smoke and rolling ground collapsed the range. A T-34 appeared 400 meters off our flank. We slewed the turret, but the gears lagged. A flash from a 76 millimeter. Then oil and smoke flooded in. Tech superiority means little when the battlefield forces knife fight distance. Even without tallying losses, the campaign design favored the Soviets. Intel, right choice. Knowing the blow was coming, they chose defense in depth, not a rash early strike. German delays, Soviet edge. More mines, more guns, better combined arms rehearsal. Force architecture. Germany bet on elite quality. The Soviets optimized the system, defenses, supply chains, reserves, depth. Tempo. Germany needed a clean, fast rhythm, disrupted from the opening moves. The Soviets stretched the fight to wear them down. Put simply, Germany brought a brilliant spear. The Soviets built a relentless grinder. A spear can be razor sharp, but inside a grinder, it still wears away. When the German push ran out of breath, Stavka flipped the switch to full counteroffensive. Kutuzov, north, drove the Germans out of Orel, August 5th, snapping the northern jaw. Rumyantsev, south, struck Belgorod-Kharkov, liberating Kharkov on August 23rd. The key was decision tempo. No long pause to write lessons learned, just a seamless handoff from defense to offense as the hinge opened. That marked true operational maturity. 2 years in, the Red Army could run a summer campaign. Real-life story number 3, the field nurse Nina, a field nurse, wrote later. After Prokhorovka, we bandaged without stopping, slipping family names into breast pockets. Men asked, "Did we win?" I said, "If you still hear our guns moving forward, we're not retreating." In the noise of war, victory isn't silence. It's the sound moving in your direction. Prokhorovka was the biggest tank battle ever. It was huge and vicious, but biggest depends on metrics. Simultaneous numbers, duration, frontage. What matters? It was the critical hinge where Germany lost its last opening. Tigers were unbeatable. In ideal conditions, open terrain, long range, perfect maintenance, the Tiger/88 was terrifying. Real war is mines, mud, narrow bridges, smoke, fuel strain, where decision speed, field repairs, and combined arms win. Both sides bled hard. Strategically, the Soviets held the replenishment edge. T-34s were cheaper, easier to build, easier to fix. Factories had been moved deep east beyond bomber range. Rear area rail kept rolling. Germany's super tanks were expensive and complex. Repairs took time. When the campaign's tempo surged, super tanks became bottlenecks. Kursk didn't annihilate the Wehrmacht, but it bent the war's curve. Germany in the east would rarely attack again at scale. The Red Army proved it could win in summer, ending doubts born from the winter campaigns of 1941 to 42. Intelligence chooses the field. Know the blow is coming. Pick the right fight. Systems beat hardware. A strong web of defenses, reserves, logistics can nullify superweapons. Own the tempo, scramble theirs, stabilize yours. Pass cleanly from defense to offense. Logistics is the invisible strike. Delays, fuel, rails. Outcomes are shaped before the first shot. Final message. Whether in business, sports, or your personal strategy, remember Kursk. Don't just sharpen the blade, build the grinder.